Hey everybody, how are you? George?
We're back.
It's been a while, huh?
It has.
All I know is I've been wanting to get here and hang out with you, and I have just been on a road crazy visiting a lot of my friends out in Pennsylvania.
Well, since the last time that we were together, some time has passed, as you had alluded to, and we have all the holidays that are about to happen,
Right?
and they're kind of all blocked together.
Wow.
So this is a great time to do the topic of our current video today, which is...
Can I just ask you a question before we even go further?
Sure.
How many trick-or-treaters stopped at your house?
Oh, I don't even know that. My wife handles that.
My wife handles that, but honestly, that's the beginning of the holiday sugar pile-on, is Halloween, and from Halloween forward, it can be one huge way of inflaming yourself up or surviving and thriving the holidays.
Well, what I want to talk about that, so we have a number of holidays that are back to back to back to back, and then the big things that are happening, and always the clue that alerts me to all of this is the Hallmark Channel, because right at the end of October they do their 24/7 Christmas movies.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like the start of the season, and they actually do that right before Halloween.
Have you ever connected the dots or noticed how much more frequency people start coming in this time of the year versus
Absolutely.
the summertime?
Absolutely.
Have you ever started making those connections as to why that is?
I have, and that's the whole topic of what we're going to speak about today. And with all that in mind, you have basically an enhanced shopping season, and you have a lot of the different companies like Amazon, and they have their days, and you have Black Friday, and you have a lot of like shopping, like it seems like everybody is jumping on the bandwagon with that, and there's a lot of stress to that. So we're going to talk about this stress and buying the perfect gift and buying the right things. And when people get stressed, what do? They eat sugar.
So as Dr. A likes to say, and Dr. Seaman, stress or emotional mismanagement, they both agree is like the #1 driver of chronic inflammatory disease manifestation.
Right, and with that, you get a number of components that are effective. So one of the problems with that happens to people is your cortisol levels. Yes. And what does that do? It inhibits your ability to lose weight, burn fat, be aerobically fit. So, what do you have to do? The other thing that happens with that is what Dr. Seaman talks about is your stress level, but why is your stress level up? What does that really affect? It affects your inflammation. So what does your inflammation affect? That affects the way your nervous system responds to stimuli. So the problem you have is, let's say you're all worried about whatever the subject may be, and now all of a sudden you eat and you're feeling bloated, you're gaining weight, you feel like you have acid reflux, except you don't have acid reflux, but you got reflux, but it's not really reflux. It is an inflammatory response to your nervous system that's making you feel bloated.
Now you're leaving something that I think is really important out of the equation. It's the relentless turning on of the insulin pump due to all the excessive level of carbohydrates that we start intaking versus our activity level and what we were doing in the summer activities.
And what happens, so let's go in that perspective, when during the summertime you obviously go outside and have activities. Where the season changing, like today as Bob and I are doing this, it's raining like crazy out.
Yeah.
You're supposed to get 1 to 2 inches of rain, so obviously you're not going to be out walking in the fresh air.
That part is true. And what happens every time you ingest sugars of carbohydrate? What is that doing?
Well, here's the big problem with that. It gives you joint pain. So, ironically, yesterday I was talking to one of my really good friends who is a golfing buddy of mine. And I haven't golfed this year because I got in a car accident, which is a shame. But
Yeah.
I plan on recovering and hopefully doing a little better and being able to play next year. But I was telling him a big problem I'm having is my left shoulder. But and I don't even do sugar. Could you imagine what kind of joint pain I would have being in that car accident if I was doing sugar? It would be so much more amplified. So let's talk about some of the things you got to do. So if you have more sugar, once again, your insulin levels are up. But let's talk about what else happens there. Let's talk about vagus nerve response.
Oh,
okay,
that's a big word.
vagus
What's
nerve.
a vagus nerve?
It's one of your cranial nerves, and there are two responses to that, and it controls your fight or flight, and that controls your sympathetic and parasympathetic,
Right.
and the way you respond, it turns on and turns off, dictates how you feel. So there's ways that you could kind of control that,
Right.
and it's got to come. There's like no one quick fix, and just like there's no one quick fix what we're talking about, it has to be a multifaceted approach.
Sure.
So one thing you got to do, okay, to control that is you got to go out and do things. So if
Activity.
during this time of year, people tend to be less active, which we alluded to. So you can't let your activity level decrease. In fact, if anything, you should increase it because you have more stress. You're more likely to not eat as right as you should. There's going to be more temptation out there to do the sugar and the gluten and get inflamed. And then, because there's the emotional component to this,
Right.
which you guys deal with Optavia, we'll give them a shout. And the problem with the emotional component to that, it's going to raise like your cortisol level, it's going to raise your insulin level, but more importantly, it's going to raise your inflammation level, which is going to affect your nerve response, which is going to give you that kind of pseudo reflux.
And here's putting a nice little bow on that. You ever notice that as your physiology changes, you start adding on the excess?
Right.
That it impacts your psychology? All
Absolutely.
of a sudden, you just don't feel good about yourself
Correct.
and your environment.
Sense of well-being.
By the same token, you start deflaming yourself, reducing inflammation, making healthier anti-inflammatory food choices, deflaming your gut, and all of a sudden your psychology is improving along with that.
Well, the reason that actually happens, the first thing you got to do is you got to tweak your diet, and then the next thing you got to do is you got to take some supplements to help that tweak, because it has to be a multifaceted approach, and then you got to activate yourself, and in fact even increase the activation. And some of the things you can do, I'll just give you just a few little quick tips, and you can contact Bob or I if you'd like to know more about this subject.
Right.
But like ashwagandha is a great supplement
It's a good botanical.
that you could take. It's a botanical. And what that'll do, it'll relax you. And you say, well, why is that important? Well, when you get all hyped up, you raise your inflammatory level,
Right.
which it's like a negative feedback system. That's the way your body works, and it starts negatively feeding back. So one of the ways to help that, besides diet and deflaming, shout out to David Seaman, is taking ashwagandha, and then we have some other products that.
Well, even before you go there, and those are other botanicals, but this time of the year, vitamin C is important, zinc is important.
For your immunity.
So you just want to do what you can to maintain health. Elderberry, thymus, there's a handful of things you can do there. So go ahead.
So let's talk about Proenz, which is an anti-inflammatory and is good for chronic inflammation. And Proenz is real important during this time of the year. And the reason ProEnz is so important because it will reduce your inflammation, which will improve your neurological response. And then what happens when all this happens to you? Okay, you become depressed, and when you become depressed, you become tired.
Right.
You get the holiday blues. So you got to deflame to kind of undo that. But the other thing you got to do is you got to facilitate your energy. And one of the great ways to facilitate energy is with Tri-B-Plex complex.
Which is a nice balanced B complex, slowly released over time, so that you're actually absorbing it way, way better.
And the key components to that is B2, B3, B5, B6, B9, and B12. But
B5, baby.
Yeah, the two keys to your energy, though, are the way your body processes the B6 and the B12. That's your short-term and your long-term energy. So there are important ways, like by taking ashwagandha, and what you could do, for instance, typically is like 150 milligrams. And they recommend you could take it twice a day, which means you could really take it probably 4 times a day. But I don't suggest you do that. I would suggest you take it as it's recommended. But if you need a little more, what you could do is maybe do it this way, the way I suggest. You might take 1 tablet 3 times a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, and then do that every day for 3 weeks, and then go to twice a day, and then take once a day onward prophylactically. And that might be a way that you can kind of help yourself supplement-wise get through the holidays with the ashwagandha, you know, with the ProEnz, and with the Tri-B-Plex. And go ahead.
That's all good, but let's bring it full circle. Let's bring it back home, because we did start with diet and
Right.
supplementation and mindset.
Right.
So this time of the year, there are some things you can do to really simplify life and make it easy, because you're going to be under a lot of temptation. You're going to be invited out to holiday parties, time
All
with
that.
family. So you have a few options here. Your best option is maybe to eat a little bit ahead of time, the healthy stuff, so that there's less temptation when you're surrounded by the not so healthy
Good
stuff.
stuff.
Make good choices. Stop, challenge, and choose. And if you can get yourself out of that emotional brain and get into your thinking brain and saying, is this serving me? Yeah, it might taste really, really good right here and now, but is this what I'm going to want to be doing to get myself healthier and reduce the aches and pains and the inflammation?
And on that same thought, okay, I want to make a few more suggestions. So once again, stress, inflammation, you know, pseudo reflux. 2 of the things that you could do naturally that would really help is, 1 is meditate. There are
Yes.
a lot of YouTube videos, if you don't know how to meditate, that can instruct you on meditation. And I would do that daily, and especially during the holidays. And another thing you can do is yoga breathing. I want to give a shout out to yoga. Yoga breathing, like go to the YMCA or your health club, whatever its name might be, and take a yoga class and learn yoga breathing. Yoga breathing is the proper way not only to breathe when you're doing yoga, but to breathe when you're doing exercise. But what's the real significance to this? Well, what did Bob and I talk about earlier? We talked about physiology. So this is a way of improving your physiology. You know, you have better oxygen carrying capability of your blood cells. Your supplements will digest better, which are helping you, including the botanicals. And then your food that you eat, if you're eating a good diet.
But can I just put a plug in, because
Go ahead.
right from the beginning you said we need to get out of our sympathetic nervous system
Correct.
and into the parasympathetic
Correct.
nervous system, and correct some of the spinal misalignments that are maybe blocking or interfering with
Correct.
some of the imbalances in the nervous system. So why not just visit your chiropractor and get a
And
good
I was going to
adjustment?
allude to that. So, you know, in essence, you know, you need to balance your vagus nerve. And your vagus nerve is one of the key factors in controlling the balance between your parasympathetic and your sympathetic systems. So in doing that, one of the best things you can do is go get evaluated functionally and let your chiropractor do his job and do what he does best and adjust you.
You know, George, your phone's ringing, and that's a really good place to end this.
And
You guys
I want everybody to have a great day.
have a
Take
great holiday.
supplements,
Reach out if you
meditate,
have any questions.
yoga, and reach out to us.
George,
Have a great day.
to be continued.
Yes.